everybody, and welcome to our week 8 coffee chat. Thank you guys for being here. It's hard to believe that we're on week 8 already, and I've enjoyed sharing these little chats with you. Today we have something that really doesn't have to do with painting, but more the what do you do with your paintings after you're done? One of the possibilities is creating a show. And we are working in collections, so I feel like it goes hand in hand. What are you going to do with your collections after you're done creating them? So this question comes from Patty D. And she asks rather, share the trials and tribulations of preparing for a solo show. And my initial reply was, this is a great topic. Even if you aren't having a solo show, chances are at some point you'll be preparing for a collection release, whether it's online, a gallery restock, a brick and mortar shop refill, Etsy. It could be an Etsy shop refill. Many of these steps for prep are really the same, other than, if you're doing an in-person show, or even a online show, it's about your guests as well and opening preparations. But let's dive in a little bit further and get down to the nitty-gritty of how do you prepare for a show in a couple different ways. All right, see you on the flip side, and we'll get to chatting. All right, everybody, let's dive in a little bit further about Patty's questions about preparing for a show. Now, each show is going to be a little bit different, so I'll kind of go through a few different situations, and I'm going to work on this painting while I chat, and no real plan. I'm just going to be playing along and working intuitively as I chat with you guys about show preparation. And this happens to be a background that we did way back in the beginning of the course, and so haven't done anything with it since then, so I figured now is a good time. All right. So recently I did a show with two other ladies in town. And our work is pretty much different than each other's. So it wasn't exactly a solo show, but preparation for ourselves, since we are so different, it was really on our own. So not that we can't, the things aren't so different when you're preparing for either a solo show or a group show. There's some definite advantages for doing group shows. For instance, everybody's going to bring in their own clientele and their own audience, so that helps with the marketing. But let's just say, for example, you're doing a solo show online. Now, I've done plenty of online shows, not really any solo ones, but say, for example, I was going to release a collection online. The first thing I would start with is, when do I want to do this? So I kind of back up the date and see when what works with your schedule, what makes sense for what you want to accomplish, and just kind of work backwards from there. So, maybe you are planning this in the fall, or planning this show release for the fall. So how long do you think it's going to take you to work on these pieces? It really depends on your schedule altogether. And I'm just taking a sip of my coffee here, since this is a coffee chat. Got my little hello cup with me today. But yeah, you're going to have to plan backwards. And only you know how long it's going to take you to create your work, given the time frame. So for me, I paint pretty fast, but my big other challenge is I usually have multiple projects going at the go. And so, for example, even if I'm creating for a show, I might have in-person classes I'm doing. I might have online classes I'm teaching, and all that plays in a factor. And trust me, I still am learning from how to plan my time efficiently, because I always think I can do more than I can in a certain time frame. So that's one advice, trying to plan your time realistically and give yourself a cushion, because you may need a lot more time than you think, because A, life, and B, other things come up. So give yourself some cushion. And then I should say C. The next thing that I would do is start thinking about my theme. And what do you want to accomplish with your particular show? Is there a theme you have in mind? Kind of like we're doing with the collection. So you can even use that um, sheet that I gave you guys to kind of work out ideas. Um, what are some possibilities? Do you want a show that has a variety of work in it? Like sometimes when I do my online show for Stephanie Gagos, um, I want different types of work to be in there because it is an online show. So, we're playing to a variety of audiences. So some like my whimsical work, some like my more realistic or abstract work, rather. And so that could definitely play into how long things take. And honestly, my whimsical work takes a little bit longer. Um, but if I was doing a in-person show, I probably would not have that much variation. I would probably more or less, pick a theme, stick with it. Is it abstract? Is it whimsical? And not, the most I might do is do maybe some semi-realistic landscapes compared to, not really definitely um, uh, whimsical landscapes like houses and stuff. And you have to kind of plan time and, space for each piece to kind of develop. So I will definitely work on more than one piece at a time. And I think it's important too, like at least for me, it's important to work on pieces of different sizes because I want to try to, include as many people as I can into possibly buying from me. If I only had large, like say 30 by 30 paintings, that definitely limits who might be interested in my work. Not that people won't be interested, but the likelihood of people actually buying from me might be a little bit um, scaled down. So I would probably like say, for example, I always try to make a statement piece in my collections. So one or depending on how big it is, how big the show is, or say if it's online, definitely think about shipping because shipping bigger pieces is a little bit more involved. So maybe my big piece for an online show might be my statement piece might be 24 by 24. That's usually about as large as I want to ship for online shows. But for in-person shows, of course, you can go a lot bigger and for your statement pieces. So definitely get those started early. But again, like if you're like me and you want to include as many people as possible, plan different sizes. The next thing you have to think about is bringing people along, and you just don't want to pop up the online or wherever and say like, "Oh, I'm having a show next week. Please join me." You want to take your viewers and your clientele along for the ride. Maybe show like, say this was a piece for the show. Maybe include little clips from reels about how this piece is coming together, or share little insights. If you have if you have a newsletter, and if you don't have a newsletter and you're selling stuff, like what are you doing? You need to get a newsletter. That has been primo for me in keeping my followers in the loop about what I'm doing. And so definitely another point is to spread your marketing out over time. And that way your advertising and you're not super early. Like if the show's a year away, that probably was a little bit long. The people have short attention spans. But definitely like 6 to 8 weeks out, you want to start advertising. Um, I would also right away, as soon as you know about the show, create an event online. Um, you want to use social media for, to your advantage as much as possible because it's, for the most part, free. Just takes a little bit of elbow grease to get things going. But if you're not using the social media, then you're kind of losing opportunities. So one thing I do is like I'll set up an event, and you can invite people, or if I'm doing it with a group, the group will set up the host will set up an event, and you can invite your followers along, and that way the event you give them all the information they're going to need to um, in order to participate in the show or come to it, I should say. And that helps keep spreading the word because, ask people to say, please join the event for reminders because, online, Facebook will give you reminders like, okay, this show is coming up. You're invited to it. Don't forget it's happening in 2 days or what have you. Um, that happens. That's really, you can use that to your advantage. Another thing you can do is obviously put it on your website if you have a website and kind of give a little teaser that this is coming up soon. I always, whenever I list something new on my website or on Etsy, I always, in addition to putting it there, I will also pin it to Pinterest. I think by and large, Pinterest brings in almost as many people as any other social media website to my either Etsy shop or to my events or classes. Definitely one of the best forms of advertisement is Pinterest. So okay, so let me just recap because sometimes it's hard for me to chew gum and walk at the same time. All right, so we talked about scheduling, being realistic with a schedule. Start your advertising as soon as you can. That makes sense for the time frame that you're doing. Also, sharing your work in progress with your fellow either social media people or your newsletter or a combination of all the above. Probably combination of all the above is probably the most preferred. And then schedule an event, pop it in your website, and it's a matter of keep on advertising. Now, if you're doing an in-person show, you want to think about things like food. Are you going to have some snacks or hors d'oeuvres? Are you going to do some wine? And plan that out. If somebody's going to help you with that, if you have more than one person, you need to kind of schedule out the duties. If you're going to have music, are you going to have flowers? You might want a floral arrangement for centerpieces. And you also may want to list some friends and family to help you with the hosting. Because, hopefully you'll have a large group and it's going to be hard to talk to everybody. So friends and family can also be a buffer and help you, you might want to give them a little insight about what you're doing and your process, and they can help sell your work too. And also in addition to, having helpers, you can also see if you can get any sponsors from local businesses that you frequent. Maybe you want to do like little gift bags or little giveaways for clients. You could also just take it upon yourself, the cost is doing business, and have some giveaways. And generally, I do that when people buy things. Like I have a little gifties that I include with my purchases. That in person might be a postcard that they can take, or maybe a little magnet, something of that sort, or maybe have a drawing for a painting of some sort, a silent auction. All those would be great ideas too. All right, let's move on to physical advertisements. Now, I know everybody thinks that like mailings are pretty much dead, but people do still like to get things in the mail that are not bills, believe it or not. So, if you've gone to the length of getting your clients' addresses, then, you can send out mailers to let them know that you're having a show. If it's an online event, then you don't necessarily have to have mailers, but maybe you would have like, just send them a message like, hey, I don't know if you know about this or not, but I'm having a show and I know how you like my little ornaments. But here it's going to be coming up on Tuesday, December 3rd, or whatever the case may be. You can give them a little heads up. But mailings can be really great too. If you're doing something local, doesn't have to necessarily even be clients of yours. It could be possibly, maybe you want to send mailings to your local businesses that you frequent. Don't forget about your hairdresser or, maybe other, friends that you have in town that maybe not on social media as much, friends and family from out of town, all good potential. The more you advertise, the more, you're the likelihood of having success. Now, there may be a point where time where somebody says like, oh, I'd love to come, but um, I can't make it to the live show. Is this for sale? You might have to follow the protocol for wherever you're working at because you want to be fair to the host of the show. You don't want to sell something right from under them. I mean, if you're advertising for the show and somebody is interested in the piece, then you need to do the right thing and give the show their commission for it, or the curator of the show commission for it. If you end up selling, don't be that person that cheats somebody out of something that they deserve. Now, if it's totally your own show, then you don't have to worry about it. You can kind of make it. You can do whatever you want. You either say like, yeah, if it doesn't sell for my show, then you're open. I'll be happy to let you know. Or yes, it's available. You can. I'll be happy to invoice you.